And I now say at this time of day, good noon, or good after morning, which is one that I started with my DM. It's funny. He still uses it with our son. Wow, of course, 11:11 hits, and I turn this thing on, and then it's loud. Which I can imagine is probably what it feels like for a lot of you when you think about your social media game. I can understand and empathize with that feeling a lot because I've had a very fun and very long journey with social media. It's funny too because when I think about me in it, I think about my DM's experience of me in it. It's kind of like almost feel like I see it through his eyes because he told me so much about watching it, and I did so much of it always under this like thought about, what was it, for such a long time it was, what will he think of me if I do this, rather than what will my friends think, or what will he think of me, and what will my kids think of me. And that's kind of where my wheelhouse sat for so long. It's funny to think about, like, I mean, I've had a lot of obstacles to my social media game in the past, in thinking and worrying or about what other people might think about what I'm working on, what I'm doing. And it's funny to think it's been about 14 years. I want to say it's over 14 years, but I really didn't start using social media in any sort of like a significant or intentional way until about 14 years ago. And I can remember before MySpace was a thing, and then MySpace hit the world, and then MySpace became a music platform too, and that was really exciting because that was right when I was getting into band booking, and my DM and I had a band together, and I was like really learning how that stuff worked, how this new pocket world of digital social interactions worked, and I kind of fell into it from there, but like then I remember Facebook coming around, and that was at a time when I started getting much more into activism. I've been in a number of different activist causes, some successful, some not. I've gotten into politics. I'm like a serial entrepreneur. I just applied the other day for like a part-time a gig putting up signs for new houses because I was thinking, I'm manifesting a house and land. I have been since before my DM left. It's funny too because he's still trying to manifest it, and I'm like, yeah, and yeah, like that says everything. Um, but like I was thinking, you know what, that would be in the energy of the direction I want to go in, and I could use some more financial abundance. And I thought about all the different, like what there was a it was a Facebook job, so it already had the things filled in, and over the years I have added like each business I've started, the first thing I did was add it to my Facebook. Started this because I wanted the right start date, because when I first got onto Facebook it was like looking at my job experience, and then I got into the pocket world of Indeed.com, or not Indeed, LinkedIn. Indeed was later. I did that one too. But I got into LinkedIn too, and it was very much about like your resume. And I was diving much more into personal development stuff too, and getting my coaching certification. So it was all about the resume. Actually, what's funny is my aunt for the longest time would just demand that I do her resumes, and it's so funny. Like once I get something down and somebody knows me for it, oftentimes they'll keep coming back to me to have me do it because I put that time and that energy into getting the right data and paying attention to how things are shifting in the fields of each thing. Um, it's always a parting of a sweet sorrow when I'm like, I'm not in that pocket world anymore, or I don't want to, I don't want this experience anymore. I'm bored with writing resumes. Yes, I'm really good at it. Yes, I can help you get the job, but I don't want to do that all the time. It's kind of a nice back burner thing. But getting in there, like, it's funny to have applied for this job, and I was looking at how many darn businesses that I have started. The ones that are still successful, the ones that fell to the wayside, the ones that were like a 2 week project, the ones that were like a 5 year project, the ones that took me into all sorts of journeys and experiences. I think I put up in the story of us MooCon, MOO Con, and if I didn't, I'll talk about it more in another video if people want to. It's called Making Our Own Opportunities Convention. I literally helped inspire and put together, and then I managed and diplomatically led people through that experience, based on learning the pocket world of LinkedIn, and that was super fun. I still have great memories about the people that we got into, or that we did that with, and it's really, really great. It feels great right now to feel like a lot of the experiences that I got into just because I was inspired to get into it, and I was building things for myself and following divine inspiration. And now I have like this wealth of experience. And it's funny because I remember when social media marketing became a degree you could get. And I really oh man, I wanted to shoot myself in the foot because there were so many social media marketing jobs that I could have taken. There was a boom for a while in social media, especially when like Kickstarter and GoFundMe and things like that started. There was a lot of like masterminding and getting people to bring in their expertise and like startup Saturdays. And oh yeah, I've been part of those too. Those are some of my favorite small business Saturdays, small business Sundays, startup Saturdays. They had a really cool one in Seattle. I did not put it together, but I got to volunteer for it for a couple of times and kind of get a little osmosis of what they were doing. And I really, for a long time, wanted to be like a social media maven for small businesses. Like it felt like it, and it's funny, my DM encouraged me all the time, though I was hiding in the shadow work of our relationship and not allowing myself to succeed with that because I had a very big fear of success. It's funny. I still have some of it, but like I sit and think about it, and it's rare when I've had a really strong fear of rejection or fear of failure, because I've proven to myself enough times, hello, good morning, good noon, good after morning. Um, I've had so many times that all I had to do was think, I want that, how do I get it? And then like sometimes there's some research phase of like learning languages or different cultures of work environments and things like that. And it's so funny. You said, "How are you?" which is such a funny thing to say to somebody doing a video. And my thought went to Divine Maverick when we're talking in the group, and then she sees a comment and she's on a roll and she gets pulled into it. And I love that so much. Keep doing it. I have no problem with it. It just brought me a smile. And your answer to your question, how am I? I am freaking fabulous. I hope that you are also. Now let's see if I can get back to that thought train where I was. Yes. So I know that I can look at something and say, I want to do that. This is something my DM's always been very, very impressed with me. He's told me this like a million times, that he's amazed that I can just go and do something. Because I learned a long time ago that like 90% of what stops people from succeeding or working a job they really, really like or building a business they really, really like is that they don't try. They will have like a cascade of reasons not to even go past a first few steps, and they and my DM was one of them. It's funny, like it's been interesting seeing during separation mission him trying to overcome that, though. I do very much recognize it. It's a little haphazard and kind of funny to watch, but he's getting there. In any case, I know that I can say, I want to do that. And at this point, at this point in time, because of how much I got hyper vigilant about getting the right data, making sure that, like, that was my big way of preventing myself from signing up for too many things that I might not continue over time, or that might become more than I imagined, like a what's the phrase? I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew, because I did that a couple of times with some success, or well, with a lot of success, but with some fairly sizable failures that were like, I don't just dive into that again. I want to at least know that the potential of how far I could fall if I get so high. Um, but that becomes the fear of success too. And my DM and my family and others, as loving as they are, they kind of became the scribes and historians to how many times that I failed or decided to change directions or things like that. And that built up this really big fear of success. And that turned into kind of imposter syndrome kind of stuff, like, wait a minute, maybe I'm not as confident as I felt like I was. Maybe I can't do it as much. Maybe I need to worry more about the end result of what if I want to put it down. It's not even so much what if I fail. I've been meaning for a long time to write a book about, like, the biggest thing that like, I've done a fair amount of business coaching. The biggest thing that I have seen cause a new business to fail, or even an old business to fail, because I've worked with some brick and mortar businesses, is not being prepared to succeed. Like, a lot of places, like, a lot of people will get into something and go, yeah, all right, like in the back of your mind, you don't really believe that you can do it. Like, the people that do really believe they can do it, they do. Like, if you want to sit and talk with me, you got a couple of weeks, I could tell you about all the businesses that I have succeeded with, to where the point where I put them down. That's where I started building my dream in my mind of, I would like to be able to be someone that starts up businesses, and helps other people get their businesses started, and then with mine have a secure exit strategy, which is where you can transition into giving the business over to somebody who is not good at the startup stuff, who's not good at the initiative and getting it going, and navigating licensing and planning and things like that, and sell it like that. Like, that was one of, my overall just goals of joy. It's just fun to me. I really like it, especially the idea of actually helping others get startup going, rather than starting my own in that. I really like co-creation. It's always been, it's fun. And that way it's also somebody's baby. It's really hard to start up a business and put all your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and then give it to somebody else. Sell it or not, when you give it to somebody else, you have to release all control over that creation, and there's a lot of fulfillment in that, but it's so heartbreaking sometimes. Be like giving away a child, and then you don't do that. In any case, back to social media. So I started with all of this because I wanted to talk about, like, there's a different approach that I want to encourage any of you watching this to take before you worry at all about the data. You know what I mean? Like, how do I do Instagram right? How do I do Twitter right? How many social medias do I need to be on? What's the best one to pair up with my particular business? Do I need a social media marketing manager? How much do I need to know about it before I can just dive into it? There's a lot of questions, all of them valid, all of them definitely worth exploring. Though I encourage you to start with law of attraction stuff. Because out of all the experiences that I've had, in person, digitally, different sales jobs, doing my own businesses, managing other businesses, things like that, when it comes to social media, it's actually far easier to be successful with social media than people imagine. It's really not that complicated. And when you bring in law of attraction, it makes it even easier, because it's nothing missing, nothing lacking. And the rules are really basic. you're going to attract those who are like you. You're as in your vibration. Like they're not gonna look exactly like you, and a lot of them may have completely different life stories. But the people that you rendezvous with, that you chat with, they're going to be in your vibration, or they will have been at one point in time. Maybe you went into a group on Facebook, and it was a group that had to do with a hobby that you really liked, and like if you're no longer in that vibration anymore, you're typically not going to see the group pop up in your feed so much. And if you do and you go back into it and you're like, I'm not really into that thing anymore, you know, I'm going to leave this group. Um, but there'll be people from your older vibrations. There might be groups that you join that are about like future things that you like, that you're learning about. If you don't join many groups, I'm not going to say join many groups, but if you've not utilized groups for your own personal wellness, I definitely encourage that. And I encourage that especially when it comes to wanting to improve your social media game for your business or your channel or whatever thing. Get involved in groups that you are already interested in for your own self care and self love. Those are going to be the groups where you're going to find the people in your vibration that are interested in what you're doing naturally, or as they call it in social media marketing now, organically, right? Now, there are, let's see. So you're going to attract your own vibration. Let's look at the rules of this. You're best if you look in places like create groups, join groups, tweet about things that you really care about. Same thing with Instagram. I see a lot of people go into their Instagrams. They'll either start a new one to keep it separate from their private one, which I totally get, or they'll just start one without having experienced, like, let's say Instagram as just an Instagram user, and then they stick to only business stuff on their feed. Well, that would have been perfect like 10 years ago. That's exactly what you should have done 10 years ago. Though now, people are really, I'm going to say people are kind of vibrational snobs, even if they don't know it, which isn't a bad thing. But it's one of those, if your page is only covered in the crystals you sell, your tarot readings, your astrology work, your your passion project, whether it's your business or a job that you do or something that you sell, and it's only covered in that, people are going to go and see that, and yeah, you're definitely going to pull in the people who just want dedicated tarot readings. That's fine. Though oftentimes when you get that niche, it's well, the market is saturated, let's put it that way. There's been so much. You can even see it with YouTube. Like year and a half ago, there were not this many twin flame readers, there were not this many tarot readers. There were not as many astrologers online. There were not as many, definitely not as many tarot readers, things like that. Keep going back beyond that, right? Now it's very saturated. And so when you get oversaturation in a certain area, niche becomes there. It's kind of supply and demand sort of thing. Like people get comfortable with who they're watching and what they're connecting with, and they weed out those that don't make them feel as good, and which is good. You should do that. This is a natural process of elimination. But what happens then is that people start to lose interest in those who are only talking about one thing other than the people that they really, really like. So one of the things that people do at that point is they start looking for people who are sharing genuine, like, organic content. And we're still in kind of this vibration collectively where it's sort of reality TV is so much like people really like realistic stuff. And or I shouldn't say realistic, like people want to see other people's lives. And it also helps build rapport too, and it shows that you're not afraid to share who you are, or to, get out there and be like, this is me, miss and all, like, that was something that even I learned on it, like getting on and still being a smoker. A lot of times I stopped myself from doing anything because I had not yet hit my goal of being a non-smoker, and I was worried about what other people thought. And the minute that I was like, you know what, for one, I don't need to worry so much about what other people think. And for two, I'm going to worry more about what I think. And I think it'll be a great journey to be able to watch myself release it and even have it documented as a part of my story. So, like, awesome. Nothing wrong with that. But I found, oh, there's little baby ducklings over next to me. Oh my goodness. See now, and that. I wanted to say, for those of you might check out and look at my channel. Because I've been so wrapped up in personal journeys, and there's been a lot of different emotional stuff, deaths, multiple deaths, things like that, I have not put a lot of focus into my social media game on YouTube. And I'm actually very well aware of how YouTube works. I have a personal channel that I had started things on years ago, and I'm aware of how it works, and I've not really been putting so much effort into it because of distractions, and also because I've been going more by my intuition this time, and it's much more fun. It's been, rather than worrying about, oh, well, what's the gold standard of Signify 7 social media marketing, and the 6 degrees of separation, and what's the, oh my goodness, I can't tell you how many expert tests I have taken just to prove to myself even that I could get a social media marketing degree, because it still just chaps my lips. Anyways, rather than going in at it and like in an aggressive masculine way, it's much more easy to navigate social media from well, especially I suppose if you're on here and you're a divine feminine, in a receptive, like, feminine way, where you're going where you're naturally feeling called, rather than trying to go in and like push things. And what this does is it creates ease, and it also like, there's so many things in my mind. Rather than worrying about all the data and the things that you might need along the way, when you just go into it and go into it as a person who enjoys using social media for what it's used for. So that Instagram example, there are lots of actually think it's a good sign when I talk too long that my cigarette goes out. There are so many tarot readers on Instagram now. And even with TikTok, there's people are starting to get filled up on there. So what people start to look for is those who are doing something either different than the rest, different kinds of readings and things like that, but mostly they look for people they can connect with. Like, you'll notice that a lot of the more popular YouTube readers, I'm going to say of any business, the more popular YouTubers who are presenting a service, whether it's readers or sexperts or music or things like that, go and look at their playlists, go and look at their videos, because it's very likely that either in the services they're providing, they're telling their own story, which is helping people connect with them, or they do separate videos that bring their actual lives into what they do. So it's not just a service you're getting. You're getting kind of a friend in it. You're getting to meet another human being. You know what I mean? Like, it has so much value. And this is where, because it's law of attraction, it's also about self-worth. If I'm not dogging on anybody who does not want to really reveal their identities on there. That's fine. I'm just saying, in terms of your social media game, you're going to have to take a vastly different approach, because you're actually working against law of attraction, universal laws of this. So it's like, if you're hiding your identity, and you're wanting to be, you're wanting to build a really great business, a tarot reading business, speaking business, a jewelry business, things like that. But if you're hiding your identity either on your website, on your YouTube, on your Twitter, on your profile, things like that, what you're telling the universe is that you do not feel worthy of what you want, right? So that's another piece of good advice that I can give is be brave enough to be you out loud. And I know a lot of people are worried about like the government spying and all that stuff. Well, guess what, honey? They already got all your information. They got it a long time ago. And even if you've never touched social media, they got it. Just it's kind of one of those get over it. On top of that, live your life in a way that makes you feel good about who you are. I'm a fan of and I want to say I don't know his whole history. I've only known so much, but I'm a fan of a portion of this person's life for a reason. I was a politician. There's an airport named after him, and they called him the Little Flower. And it was LaGuardia. Was it Andrew LaGuardia? I can't remember his full name. What I do know is a story that my dad told me, and I looked it up, and it is factual. That when he ran for office, he had a book written about his own life before he ran for office, and in this book, he talked about everything, good and bad, that he had ever gotten into, ever. Some of it was kind of colorful, but mostly it wasn't. He was, he was a person of pretty good integrity, and you could tell because like he did talk about stuff. Just lay it out there. It was very authentic, and the what this ended up doing, it was quite genius, is that when he ran for office and when he was in office and other his opponents were trying to drag his name through the mud, the only stuff that they could ever dig up was already in his book. It was really beautiful, and might go to the newspapers or go somewhere or have someone call him and be like, "We dug up this dirt on you," and they'd be like, "Yeah, that's in the book," and so that example is kind of a great thing. When you think about law of attraction, things come to you. Yeah, sometimes you will go get them, but the inspiration will come to you to go to the place where you want to find that. The person or the thing or the next step or the clue, things like that. And in order to be able to experience the joy and the ease of that, if all you have to do is be open to being your whole self and not being afraid of people knowing that you have some shadows, that you've had a past, that you've done some things, well, embracing that can open up all this flow with social media to where you just be yourself. Like, that's the biggest thing that I can say. Because no matter how many plans you have, no matter how many people you hire, no matter how many times you look at the analytics and the data and this and that, and you ask questions about it, it's always going to come down to how much in alignment are you with you? Because people don't buy things, they buy experiences. And on top of that, okay, here's a good example. When 4th of July came around, we have a place nearby on the Tulalip Reservation that they call Boom City, where they sell fireworks. I went there this year. I don't usually go, but I wanted to go and get just some small stuff to do with my boys. I walked around the entire thing. It wasn't huge, but it's kind of like a small carnival in some ways, or like a really cool flea market. But I walked around, and pretty much all of them had mostly the same items, right? The same brands, the same things. I know from experience that if I went and talked with each one, there'll be some unique items, but I was limited on money, and I was more. I guess I'm a weirdo, though. I was there more because I knew there would be some signs and sinks and stuff that I wasn't expecting, but kind of was there. But either way, I went and walked around. I let people talk to me. I caught the energy of different people going around, and they all had the same stuff. So for me, then it's like, okay, I could go to any one of these booths and buy whatever I want. Like I could get the same items, the little sparklers, the little fountains, things like that. And I'm sure at any one of them I could get a great deal because they've got a lot of barkers, and it's deal town. It's where you get your deals, and they're trying to, sell more than the guy next to them. It's a fun experience, but like they used to have a bigger diversity of the fireworks they had there. So I'm there and I'm like going, okay, I've been past all of these booths. I've caught the energy of everybody. I've seen what's popular or what booths are popular and stuff and things like that. And I think I'm going to go around and instead decide that I want to I want to buy from the place where the energy feels in alignment with my energy. And what's funny is it was a cool experience to go through it like that and to then be able to see what my alignment was in that way. Um, and the place that I got called to was actually a very small place, kind of towards one of the outer edges of all the rows of them, and it was run by a musician, and it was really cool. It was nice. But my point is, though, is that when people have a lot of decisions, or what is it? It's called analysis paralysis or choice paralysis. When you have so many places you can get the same thing from, it will typically push people towards the places that align with their own vibration. And so when you're being yourself, when you're just being you and you're living out loud. No, you don't got to share every bit of personal information with everybody. There's a fair amount that makes sense not to. But just in general, you're okay with your story. You're okay with where you are in it. And you're okay with just being a person among other people. I've had more times when I've had somebody like find me through a group that I'm in that's about philosophical conversations or meme wars or political conversations that will have interacted with me and had a cool experience and come to my personal page and find that I have my YouTube link for Wickedly Divine Feminine and go there and see what I talk about and see that I do readings and coaching, and they then come to me and want to know more about my services, which I really love too because I've had so many I have so many websites that I have made, and I have yet to have completed one for Wickedly Divine Feminine. Like I said, there's been some things going on, and then also I've been going more with my intuition, and I'm really liking it at this moment too because this is becoming a fun experience to start talking about my previous experiences with social media into what I know now, and then to also be able to hopefully provide you with a delicious example of what to do. And so I encourage you too, if you've been following my channel and you've been working on a passion project of yours or you want to, like, start paying attention to how I'm interacting on YouTube. Like, and YouTube is a funny pocket world because you can't like lurk on people quite as much as you would otherwise. But there are some cool ways to look at it. So like if you see me if you see a comment from me, say on another reader's channel or on a music video or a Try Guys video, I love watching Try Guys, you can go and click on the picture and it won't take you to my page. It will pop up a little menu that shows you the most recent comments that I've made on the same YouTuber's videos. And you can then go click on those and see what the conversation was, who may have been involved. You can go to different videos that you may not have been aware of, things like that. And you can do that with almost anybody. But there are different ways to kind of get an awareness of how other people do their thing. And my plan at this point is to do it through law of attraction by being myself. Like just being myself. I'm going to do my normal comments that I would do. I'll share my story in some of them. I'll connect with other people's stories in them. I will do that. And the great thing is too, every time that you comment on somebody's video, it boosts it in the analytics of YouTube. It's very similar on almost all other social medias, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on LinkedIn, not so much. They're a little more old school, but it does help to a degree. Twitter, things like that. Whatever. There's so many different platforms. It's funny. That I should speak to also. Go to the platforms that you feel interested in as a person. Don't worry at this moment about how many should you be on or this and that. If you have one that you really like and you feel really good at it, stick with it. If you feel called to try out a few others, then yeah, go for it. It actually, the funny thing is like Google and different search engines have kind of become like, if you imagined it being like real estate development, so to speak. Like, say they totally, you have a flat piece of land and they put up new real estate. It takes a little time to mature because it's so saturated with all these other businesses competing. And, it took me a little while to learn this one, but when it comes to like your Google game and things like that, which now is integrated into so many things. So it takes a little while for like a new website, a new business, things like that to mature until it's enough that it can be found within the first few pages without having to pay for it. And over time, when you put in, like, so let's say you start an Instagram and you don't really put as much effort into it. Maybe you don't really understand how Instagram works. Maybe you found that TikTok is more fun. Maybe a whole bunch of different things happened. Just leave it there, because over time that's going to be another link, another address that is going to come up on Google and different search engines when people start looking for you, or when you become more popular, or and then later on, when you've learned whatever you wanted to learn or had whatever experience you wanted to have with your other social medias, you can still come back to that. Like, it's okay if it got set down for a little while. It's okay. In fact, if you found that you have gone and started a whole bunch of different social medias and then you got overwhelmed and you were like, how do I keep up with all these and I don't understand all the rules? It's okay. It's likely that your intuition was leading you to get those things set up, and that is very law of attraction. And it's okay to leave them there. It still puts your business name or your services in another location, so it's okay. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a great practice to do intentionally. I'm just saying, if it has happened, it's okay. It's like Bob Ross, it's a happy accident, and you can make use of that later. Either way, go towards law of attraction. Be yourself. Say things that you would naturally say. Say things, start groups, go into groups, do videos where you talk about things that you just find interesting. I get a lot of people that come to this channel actually not because of all the twin flame stuff I talked about, or even the social media, even some of the kink stuff. They will come because I do videos about the meanings of various different bird feathers and animal totems. And I love that. And because the two do connect, right? And that's the other part of why I'm encouraging you to be yourself, because in being yourself, you will attract a lot more people that otherwise may not have made the connection. Like, there's a lot of people who very much love spirit animals, animal totems, feather meanings, and they just have not been introduced to tarot yet. Who knows if they'll like it or not, but the fact that I'm doing those videos on this page, or on this channel, I guess, it can link them over to other things. And I also recommend other people to watch, not just tarot readers, but I link it to it. And I typically leave most of my stuff that I do personally on my Wickedly Divine channel. I just leave it because more people will come in. And that organically brings in more keywords, more things. This is why I also am starting to, use YouTube more in a way that I would with other social medias. I'm actually a fan of, like, once you, oh, what is it? You learn what the rules are so then you can break them and remake them and redo them. And I'm going to start playing with how YouTube does social media on YouTube and see what happens. It'll be fun. I've already started doing that, and I've already seen a couple of sort of trending things happening that I didn't start them per se, but I gave them more of my focus. And as you know, where your focus goes, things grow. In any case, the point of that was that you're going to get a lot more organic keywords or hashtags, things like that, when you are including in yourself, your own story, and then as you start to enjoy the experience in the social media that you're doing, you're naturally going to pick up how it works. Social media is, in a sense of being a pocket world, it's all about socializing. People want to talk to other people. There was a point in time where people did want to use it more for business, and like they wanted to be able to go buy things. They thought it was really cool that when they talked about something, then it appeared on their phones. And but now it's very much like everybody's trying to sell you something, and who's organic where, and is this person just making a connection with you so they can sell you something later. Well, this law of attraction method is a great way to not worry about that. To not worry about that at all, because you're not selling anything. You are being you. You are telling your story. You are doing your light work on whatever social media platforms you feel called to because they feel like fun to you. You like Snapchat? You like what it's about, temporary pictures and doing this and that and filters? Enjoy it, and then put a link to your business on your little profile. Same thing with Instagram. Just put a link there. If I had WickedlyDivineFeminine.com, I'll probably get it soon. If I had that, I would just put that up there, and put on my Instagram, on my Twitter, on all those things. And then actually, man, I miss Cloud.com. I wish they were still up there. It'd be a great way to teach social media. There, go into those spaces and then just interact as yourself, and do your shadow work along the way, because you're going to find there'll be times like, I really want to talk about this part of my life, but I'm worried about what people will think if I talk about it. That's the stuff that you probably should talk about, that you should get on. There's probably a fair amount of those topics that other people also want to talk about, but they're too afraid to talk about it, and you can give them permission to think about and talk about it because you're willing to think about it and talk about it. And then you're doing your shadow work and you're bringing it out, and you don't feel so bad about it, and then it becomes a thing in the past, and you get to talk more about the light that you're bringing in and the fun that you're having and the love you're enjoying and the work that you're doing. And the more that you build that momentum and you're talking about yourself in a beautiful way, but you're not being conceited, and you're enjoying helping other people, then other people are going to also notice. Those other people are coming towards you. Those other people are enjoying their time and your energy. I wonder why. I wonder what she's doing. Maybe it's her coaching, maybe it's her tarot reading, maybe it's her jewelry business, maybe it's her beautiful living DNA art, maybe it's the way she parents, maybe it's the kind of friend she is. Like, people will naturally want to know, what are people talking about? And then they'll see that you're sharing certain things, you're talking about certain topics, you're sharing stories in your life, and you build the momentum. And then the thoughts that you have start turning into things, just like Abraham talks about, because then you get into a flow. And when you get into a flow, you put out so many organic keywords. And here's the funny thing, whereas so many people worry so much about getting the right hashtag, getting the right title, doing the right Google thing, Google is sitting over there trying to figure out how to get more organic content and get in touch and put the people who are actually not trying to sell anything at the top. of that information. And I know this because I am a content writer also, and I have been for over a decade. And I know, like, I still go in, it's some of the freelance work that I still do, and go in and write stuff for different people's websites. And I have websites that I write for that have to play with Google and things like that. And there is this constant, like, battle going on between where, like, people will figure out how Google works and get themselves to the top of the search without having to pay for an ad. And then Google goes in and goes, no, that's not what people want anymore. They want organic content. They want amateurs. They want people who aren't like big gurus that make them feel so small in comparison to how big they are. They want those people. And then they decimate the systems that were set up with the algorithms for people who write content to be at the top, and then you do it all over again, which you can get bitter or you can get better. But this is what I mean, is like, the more yourself you can be, even if you're doing stuff that other people have done, do it because you love it. Do it because it's part of your lifestyle, because it's passion for you, because it's fun, and you will naturally put out more than enough organic keywords that it will go to the top. It will be shown more often in the different social media platforms that are weeding out bots and spun articles and content and things like that. You will naturally go up there. And that is all law of attraction stuff, because the way to be able to do that is to get to be in self-love, to have positive self-care, things like that. Because when you love yourself, when you love who you are, when you love your story, even if you're just starting out the beginning of that journey, when you love yourself enough to be seen and to experience, to allow other people into your experience, you naturally start calling people towards you who need to feel that experience, or who are having a similar experience, or who are about to have a similar experience, or who just had that experience and are kind of reviewing it. It naturally comes to you. And it's even more so when you're just having fun. I love Instagram because for years, I on my in my older attempts with Instagram, I applied a lot of this because I really loved taking pictures. Like, I got into digital photography. I dived into the research of, putting things in the side quarter of the frames, and then, making it so that when you take the picture, it's enough away that you have some room to zoom in or out depending on the pixels of your phone camera, because I couldn't afford a really, really cool camera. Either way, you see what I mean? Like, I really dove into new age digital photography, and I really enjoyed playing with that on my Instagram. Now my personal Instagram has so many followers, it's funny. But I wanted to I wanted to have Wickedly Divine Feminine be a part of an experience. I didn't fully know it at first, but I was aware that this was something I would need to build. And that, not that I would need to, but that I wanted to. Something that was different from the other businesses that I'd been building. And I think really what it is that I built all those businesses in a very masculine oriented way, which was fun and beautiful. And I learned along the way a lot of the natural feminine essence in it, though I didn't really apply it because what's the song? Because it's a man's world. Like, I was applying a lot of the patriarchal energies to things, and it's just not necessary. And it's more fun and more diverse to include in the different energies. So for those of you who have stayed on for almost 50 minutes to listen to me jabber about this, I'm definitely saying, go more towards your feminine essence. Do things that you find are fun, because it leans into law of attraction, and you then attract as you are. And you can then see the people around you, are they people that you enjoy? Are they customers that you like? Do they whine and cry a lot? Because there's some sort of reflection of some shadow work for you to do. Either you have some challenges with your own value, or you're complaining a lot about the work you got to do, or you're putting yourself down, or things like that. And if the people that you're working with, so you're getting lots of people, but they're not in a vibration that feels like, yeah, I'm really loving working with all these people that I got on here, then stop and think about your feelings about what you're doing. Are you doing it because it's really fun? Are you doing it to distract yourself from other things that feel emotionally painful? Are you, and if you're doing it because you're fun, do you really believe you can succeed at it? And are you really feeling grateful about it? Or are you in some energy of desperation about it? Like, what are your feelings about it? And start to examine those, and then use your social media around you as kind of your emotional GPS, or your vibrational GPS. Is like, okay, the people in this group that I joined about fitness, yes, they talk a lot about fitness, but they're typically whining about it, or they're like, or whatever thing. Okay, leave that group. Get out of that group. Find a different group that has more of the vibe that you want. Maybe people that are more like, yeah, you can do it. You're awesome. Yeah, you started day one, a mile. That's awesome. Which is more fun than a group that's like, you only did a mile. Pff, my first time I did 10. Like, you see the difference in the vibration? If you're in the one where they're saying, I did 10, that's fine. But make sure you're happy. Make sure you're in there because it makes you feel happy and motivated. That wouldn't work for me, like, yeah, I'm okay with some playful banter, but that not with put downs. I much prefer those who are just like, yeah, you made 2 steps today, that's freaking awesome, like that's 2 steps more than you did yesterday. Are you gonna do 2 more steps the next day? That's what I like, right? And the energy in rooms like that is so synergistic too. And if those groups do not exist, those rooms do not exist, if you don't see somebody on YouTube that exists in an energy that makes you just feel like, yeah, I love this, then you are supposed to become that person. Create that group. Work on learning the way that timeline, that pocket world, that dimension works, and become the pioneer of it, And so do that. Get out there. Like, if you got shadow work to work on, you're not sure where to start, email me. Or you don't have to email me. You could see in your own vibration. But if you would like some assistance in being able to interpret what is going on in your vibration, I'm happy to help to a degree. I'm having fun doing all sorts of stuff. So if it's in detail, it would be of value to both of us to look into my coaching services, because that's what I like to do, that stuff. All right, everybody. I'm going to end this video here. There was a lot of information in here. If there's any particular bit or piece that you would like to learn a little more about and focus, I'm going to be doing more videos, and I always appreciate your feedback. So feel free to ask questions, share experiences that you've had that either they're in alignment with what I'm saying, or if you think it's totally opposite. Whatever you want to do. It's all helpful. It's all fun. And it boosts my videos in the YouTube algorithm. So please comment a lot, just because. All right, y'all. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.